Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play cast, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka Magicman. It's episode 154. It's September 23rd. You're watching it on the 24th or later. And we got a lot of stuff to cover. There was, shit going on last week, so we were a show would be forcing things. We'll have a few things to cover the following week, and boy did we ever. So we've got 4 news topics today to go through, and to help me cover it, you know him, you love him, Mr. Jason Winter. What's up, sir?
I am loving this Texas autumn. I mean, you can tell it's definitely autumn, and it's getting cooler. Highs are only in the mid-90s.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's nice and cool for you down there.
I almost put on a sweater.
Let's slide over and get started with the news, because we got a lot. Alright, so first up, let's talk a little EverQuest. A little EverQuest Next, a little EverQuest, a little EverQuest 2. There's kind of news about all of the EverQuests, with the exception of Landmark at this time.
It's not EverQuest.
Yeah, but it's not yeah, you're right. It's just Landmark. Just Landmark. So let's start with the EverQuest Next first, because I think this will be pretty quick. You wrote a piece this week, and I kind of think that it really hit home with a problem, and we're going to talk about how this relates to the community when we get to the EQ and EQ2 news. But you wrote a piece this past week about EverQuest Next's major obstacle, and what the challenge is going forward with Daybreak, particularly with maybe what their plans were when they were Sony Online, and now what their plans may be when they're Daybreak, and how that kind of goes with the whole MMORPG industry as a whole. So I thought it'd be kind of neat. I wanted you to talk about that a little bit and get our viewers' feedback on, is this a potential challenge for EverQuest? Is this why we see so little, and what's going on with all the marketing? Tell us about the piece.
Sure, and that's a big part of it, is the fact that we really haven't heard much about EverQuest Next since last year's SOE Live, and they're not doing one of those this year, so who knows when we're next going to get a pretty sizable news dump. And maybe a reason for that I put out there is because they might be changing a lot of things behind the scenes, because big, fancy AAA, maybe $100 million plus budget MMOs are really falling by the wayside now. We've seen how those have kind of gone in recent years. We saw that Elder Scrolls Online has had some of its issues when it first launched. Look at something like WildStar, of course, Star Wars: Old Republic. All of those are representing such huge risks financially, that a lot of companies now, of course, are going with the kind of smaller games, your MOBAs, your card games, your battle arena type games, and they're realizing pretty good profits from that. Obviously, look at the really big stuff like League of Legends, but even something smaller like Smite or Dota 2, or look at Hearthstone as a great example. These are things that have a lot less outlay in terms of money and time. You get them to market generally quicker, and they can still be really big profit makers, in the sort of thing that you used to think you had to have that big all-inclusive MMO. So if you don't need that anymore, and MMOs are just a big risk that don't necessarily pay off, why make them anymore? And we're kind of seeing that. We're not seeing a whole lot of those kind of really big MMOs out there. I mentioned in the piece that there really aren't any on the horizon other than EverQuest Next. I kind of forgot about Star Citizen, which is kind of its own beast, its own thing. So who knows exactly how that's going to turn out. But that's kind of the only other big MMO that you can really see being out there. Where it used to be we get at least 1 or 2 of these a year, it seemed like. And, this is just, obviously SOE Daybreak has had some of their issues, and, with all the layoffs and the different transitions and so on, who knows what all is going on behind the scenes there. But this is something that they really can't help. This is just how the industry is going. I mentioned Titan as an example by Blizzard. That was a thing where obviously Blizzard isn't having financial issues or anything, but they might have looked and said, we don't need another big WoW-style MMO in order to continue as a company, so they just scrapped that. And I almost wonder if maybe Daybreak could go in that same direction. Maybe EverQuest Next isn't going to come out. I don't want to say that it isn't. I'm still kind of iffy on that. Maybe it won't, not because of Daybreak screwing up and being incompetent or whatever, but just because of how things are these days.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I can't imagine, and you and I have talked about Next on this show before, and I tend to lean a little more towards the not entirely vaporware, but pretty close side of things than you do.
Sorry, yeah.
I believe it's a thing. I believe it's in development. I believe at some point we will probably see some incarnation of it, but I wouldn't be surprised if the project just went away at some point. Here's the thing that the one drawback that or the one thing that keeps me from going, you know what, your piece is right. I can't imagine this particular IP as anything but an MMORPG.
Sure.
With the EverQuest franchise and the EverQuest intellectual property, I just can't see it as, okay, you know what, we're going to make this more like Trove. It's just going to take place in Norath. Well, on a voxel front, yeah, but we're going to make this like Trove, just a sandbox, go do what you want. They already have that with Landmark. And Landmark could be tweaked a little bit more and a little further. If they really wanted to just emulate something like Trove, they're not far off as far as features that Trove has that Landmark doesn't. It's not... They don't have to create a new experience for that. EverQuest Next is distinctly different from everything we've seen and everything we've heard so far, and I can't see it as anything but an MMORPG. So to me, this one isn't one that becomes something else, a card game, a team-based shooter.
Well, they'll do one afterwards. Kind of like Elder Scrolls Online is doing their card game now.
Right.
I could believe that.
Right. But to me, this one either comes out as an MMORPG or doesn't come out at all at this point.
I tend to agree with you. I just think that maybe they're going to... I wonder if they might just bring down the scope some. Because they made a lot of talk, a lot of promises, and I wonder if they could almost... If they're just going to maybe... I don't know, I'd say backtrack or break their word on some of that stuff, but I just wonder if they're going to have to eventually put something out that they plan to add to later, maybe.
Yeah, and that's kind of a problem right now with the whole Daybreak game situation, is that there isn't a lot of player confidence right now. Yeah. Particularly when it comes to the EverQuest property. I mean, there's been issues with the way things were portrayed and then implemented in H1Z1 and other titles that they've had their fair share of saying one thing, and even if they didn't technically do another thing, the perception is that they did another thing. And now, EverQuest and EverQuest 2 are going to join that bandwagon too, and this one has been on again, off again a few times. So EverQuest and EverQuest 2, way back when, we were told that, hey, we're not going to be doing expansions anymore. We're going to release smaller bits of content on a more frequent basis, and the pricing will scale down based on the number of things that are available in that content. And they kind of, what did they call them?
Campaigns.
Campaigns, thank you. We're going to institute campaigns into EverQuest 1 and 2. And then they backtracked on that, and then they went back to it and said, no, yeah, that's what we're going to do. And we're not talking about like a little tweet from a random whoever behind the EverQuest Twitter accounts. We're talking about Holly Reinhardt.
Holly Longdale.
Longdale. Oh, God, I'm all over the place with my names. Holly Longdale. You know, if I'm going to take somebody's word on what's going on with EverQuest, it's going to be Holly's at this point. I mean, Georgeson isn't there anymore. Smedley isn't there. It's going to be Holly's word that I take on things.
Maybe Terry Michaels.
Maybe Terry Michaels. But now we find we're going. Oh, wait. We are going to go back to expansions. And not only are we going to do that, but on October 1st, for both EverQuest and EverQuest 2, we're going to start pre-orders for the next expansions, and we're going to start releasing all the information and content that we hope to include in these. Now, massively OP, there was an article written there about maybe the distrust that this type of thing causes, and I don't know if I could take it to the extreme that the article did, and they flat out lied. I have a feeling nobody really knows what the hell is going on over there right now because of the layoffs and the transition and where are these franchises going and what are we trying to do with them, and we need them to make money. Obviously it plays a part in this, and the expansions are pricey, but it seemed like Campaigns was relatively well received by players. Smaller pieces of content with a smaller price tag on a more frequent basis, fine, I'm all for it. And now we're going to go back to the expansions where the last couple really didn't hit the mark for players as far as having a $60 and $80 price tag depending on version versus the content. What's your whole take on this back and forth?
It really makes you wonder just who's calling the shots right now.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, granted, you might have thought that before Smedley's in charge, and he obviously probably takes advice from people, but he has to look at the numbers. He's got the financial numbers. He sees, like you say, expansion's not doing that well, so he brings up, let's try something different. Somehow that goes through. Whether maybe Hawley didn't like it, maybe Georgeson didn't like it, maybe that's why he got let go or whatever. But maybe he pushes that sort of thing through, and then once he's gone, they go back to this. But even in that case, Smedley left what 2 months ago, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
Could they have decided in 2 months? Okay, we're just making an expansion. Toss all of that. I guess you could have taken all the stuff, all the content that was going to be in campaigns, you smush that all together into one expansion. Maybe they had enough time to do that. But yeah, I mean, you just wonder who's making these decisions now.
Yeah, and I don't know where the direction is. I don't know who's in charge. I don't know what's going on. And granted, I'm not supposed to know a great deal of what's going on. I'm not working there. But still, as a player, it really doesn't inspire confidence when it feels like the people that are communicating these things may not have the best grasp on the direction of things to begin with. And that's not to fault Holly. I mean, Holly's probably in a position where she has the information she has, and I'm going to go and share it. But they made it seem in the announcement like, oh, the developers made so much content for these little campaigns that, you know what, we just have an abundance of content now. We're just going to slam it into an expansion. And that can't possibly be the case. I mean, that just can't possibly be the case.
Like, how did you just overprogrammed stuff?
Right. We just ended up with far more than we anticipated. No, you did. Come on.
I checked too. It was only April when they mentioned the campaign, so we're talking like 5 months ago.
And that was the second time that they had mentioned them.
That
was the time that they put the name campaigns on them.
Okay.
There previously, like I think it was last year, late 2014, they had talked about.
Oh, you might be right.
Getting rid of the whole idea of an expansion. So it's been back and forth. I don't know. What do you guys think on the whole EverQuest thing? And actually, I mean, maybe it's a bigger question. What do you guys think's going on with Daybreak Studios or Daybreak Game right now? Because it just seems like a lack of direction on a couple of different fronts, or maybe a shifting in direction that isn't just made public yet. Put it in the comments below. Maybe we're reading into it. I don't know. Maybe it's just as simple as what they say, but it's hard to take things at face value anymore, particularly from this company, and that's worrisome for me. And
it's not like they fired their community director. Oh wait, hang on.
Oh wait.
Yeah, Linda's a try-on now.
Next up, reviews. We got 2 games to take a look at this week. This will be short.
This is how you earn your money, man, by doing these first looks.
God. First up, let's talk about Otherland. Tad Williams novels inspired the sci-fi MMORPG that's been on again, off again a number of times. What are you doing?
I'm going for the magazine where we covered Otherworld 4 years ago. When it was first being covered, there was something in here I wanted to bring up. I just remember
the On Again Off Again project, now in the hands of Drago Entertainment. Now, to full disclosure here, Drago Entertainment reached out probably about 6 or 7 months ago and asked, hey, would you consider doing a first look for Otherland? And we said, yeah, sure. Send us access. We'll take a look at it. And the game was barely playable. At the time, they only had European servers, being on the East Coast of the United States. While not terrible, it definitely impacted the performance of the game, and the game itself wasn't in the best shape. So we opted not to do a first look. When games are bad, and Jason or I do a first look, we will tell you that the game is bad, or we will point out some of the bad features and let you make the assumption it's bad.
Wait until we get to the next one.
Yeah, we don't want to go into a first look and make the game purposely look bad. That's not our intent. So at the time we said, you know what, we're going to hold off on a first look. The game's really not in a condition where it would be fair to do any type of critique, even if it's just mild critique on here's a couple things we like, here's a couple things we don't. Now you go check it out and let us know what you think, which is basically what we do for first look. So we delayed the Otherland first look. And then months later, they put the early access on Steam, and we had a date set up to get access and go do a first look. I think it was like the day before, wasn't it? The day before the early access went up. And then we got notified, hey, early access is going to be delayed, so we're not going to. We don't want you to do a first look yet. Okay, fine. So we waited for the early access on Steam to actually start, and we went in and did a first look. Now, the game itself takes place in a futuristic sci-fi setting. If you're familiar with the Otherland novels, you'll get the setting. And that's something good that it's got going for it. It's not a fantasy-based setting. A couple of different classes. All 4 classes play differently. They do have their own little unique feel. It is a more action-y combat than just your standard tab targets. You do have to aim. You do have to be facing your targets. So a lot of good things that if you're reading about it, you're like, oh, all right, great. I want to check this out. And I got to admit, granted, it's still in a testing phase, so there were odd quirks. Like, I turned the game sounds way down in the first look because there were points where the animations weren't even matching the sound. Like, I would fire the blaster and not hear anything for like 2 seconds, and it got really weird, so I had to turn the sound way down on it. And that stuff will probably be worked out. But as far as the game goes, the graphics were mediocre at best. The performance of the game leaves a little to be desired, even though there is a North American server now. And it was just run-of-the-mill. It was literally every quest you've ever seen. Kill X of these, pick up X of these, touch this person, talk to this person, go do this, get a letter and come back. I was looking forward to Otherland. Not like, it wasn't like, oh my god, I can't wait to play that, but it was like, oh, there's something that's probably going to be a little bit different. I can't wait to check that out. And honestly, I haven't played it since the first look. I mean, I really, at this point, I can't even recommend it. I'm not even going to score it, because at this point, I can't even recommend it. At the conclusion of the first look, within hours of the first look, because I did play a little longer after the first look, I wanted to get into some PvE or some PvP type content that wasn't just quest grind, because it was taking forever to level. I think in the first look, I only got to like level 3. So I played it a little while longer, but then eventually, within an hour after I finished recording the first look, the server shit to bed. Everything crashed. People were zoning into areas where you could finally see other people, and then you couldn't do anything. People were stuck. People were losing items, and they took it down after saying, hey, we're not going to take the game down or patch it in the first 2 weeks because we think that's a marketing scam when people do that. They got forced to. They had to take it down and fix a bunch of things. I'm not even going to rate it because it would be very low. And it is still in early testing, so it's kind of unfair. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here so badly, Jason, but I'm just trying to, I guess, find a nice way to say I'm never going to play it again.
You know, the funny thing is, though, that for all that you talked about this with me in chat and Skype and everything, I was expecting just a complete disaster. And I watched your video, and I was like, this doesn't look too bad. I mean, this doesn't look like something I'm going to avoid for the rest of my life. So, I mean, I actually had a moderately positive, outlook on it after watching your video, going through all that stuff. Especially at the very end when you get thrown in prison or whatever that was. I was like, well, That's kind of interesting. That's at least a little different. It seemed like it was a little different than just, okay, go kill your 10 rats, go do that and come back.
Yeah, but really on that quest, all you had to do was listen to the NPCs talk outside, and then you broke out.
Okay. Well,
it was
they were going to
nothing.
make you have to. It could have been like Skyrim to do a lockpicking.
Now, the one thing that maybe I spoke too soon. I may dabble back into it a little bit because I do like the idea of eDNA, where the monsters you're killing and you're trying to drain DNA from them to use for various crafting things, and I do kind of like where they're going with that. So I do want to check that out a little bit more. But ultimately, it's not like the game is awful like the next one we're going to talk about. It's just to me. It was just okay. It's okay.
Well, that's probably what happens when you have a game that started production in whatever it was, probably 2010 or so. This magazine's from 2011.
And it definitely looks it. It definitely looks it.
And it was shifted around to a different publisher. It reminds me of, I often said it reminded me of, just the hearing about it reminded me of Gods and Heroes, which got shuffled around to 3 different companies, including SOE at one point. And then when it finally launched, it was an absolute piece of crap. This doesn't maybe look like it's that bad. They polished it up a little more, but it was one of those games you just forgot about for 3 years, and suddenly like, hey, we're making it. And like, oh, really? That's still alive somehow?
I know chat's going to be mad if I don't put a number on this, since we do that with all the reviews. I'm going to put it at a 5.
Okay.
I'm going to put it at a 4 to a 5 right now. And that's not to say that it's terrible or whatever. It's just not, to me, it wasn't compelling to play. And granted, I was only an hour or two into it when I spliced together all the first look footage, but it didn't grab me. The graphics seemed dated. The combat was fun. Okay, yeah, I enjoyed the combat. I did like how each weapon felt very different. Like when my character's equipping a shotgun versus a rifle, there was a clear difference in impact there. I mean, they did a good job there.
Assuming you could travel more than like 5 feet from the enemy and not have to reset.
Right, right. But it just really didn't capture me. And I mean, it's so important to capture you early that it just really missed the mark on that one for me.
It sounds like there are some cooler things later. Just looking at the article, and again, who knows how much of this is still in there, but they talk about having your own land, that you can go and raid other people's lands and take their resources. Fair amount of open world PvP if you're into that sort of thing. What is this? Players may be able to hack into other players or to craft viruses to steal code. Viruses, however, can be cured, and cured players will develop immunity to that strain. Antidotes and immunizations can also be developed. So it does sound like it has some interesting things, but if you're right, if they hide that behind, do 20 hours of crap first, then
yeah,
no one's going to care.
I'm going to give it a 5 based on the amount of time that it took to do the first look video, which is probably about 2 to 3 hours of total gameplay. Obviously, the first look video is not 2 to 3 hours, but total gameplay that was used for the footage there. So, chat, take it with a grain of salt on this one. We really couldn't get into a ton of the stuff that they advertise, so just based on what we played, a 5. With the option to change that score if it's re-examined at some other point. On the other hand, Tiny Mighty also received a first look. What's Tiny Mighty, you ask? Yeah, that's what we asked.
It's Chinese for copyright infringement.
Ooh, no shit, huh? So behind the scenes, what goes on when Jason and I are writing articles is typically we each have our dockets of websites that we jump to see if there's certain things going on, whether it's other game websites, whether it's official websites for certain games. We're pretty much glued to the WildStar website right now because that's one of those games that is likely releasing news every single day. And then there's other games that maybe we'll pop into once every week or two just to see if there's a news blurb. Sometimes, though, we get stuff emailed to us that we don't even know. Like, obviously, Jason and I, we both subscribe to hundreds of these presser release things, and so Neverwinter will send out a press release of some type, and we'll both get it. But then we'll get news from companies that we don't even know about, or about a game we don't know about, and nothing we've ever signed up for. They just find a way to contact us and send us a press release. And so this happened with Tiny Mighty a few weeks ago. And they released this superhero strategy RPG, and they said it was going into a closed testing phase. And so I looked at the website and I threw up a news piece saying that it was going into closed testing. A few weeks later, they sent another one saying that it's going into open testing. I said, okay, fine. So I go to the website and I post an article about it going into open testing. And at that point, now that I can access the game, I'm trying to find more information about the game through the game's website to just fill the article a little bit with some details so that you guys and gals visiting the site can make a decision on whether or not to check the game out. Unfortunately, nothing on their website works except the shop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the shop works immaculately. It's perfect.
You have 85 different payment options.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I even said that during the first look. I was like, look, they will take any currency that you can figure out how to throw at them.
Confederate money.
Right?
In the Civil War, you can give them that.
So what is Tiny Mighty? Well, you can't go to the guide section on the website to learn about it. Nobody's making videos about it. So, and I took a lot of shit in the comments for doing a first look on this one. But in my mind, this was a PSA, Jason. This was not.
You took one for the team.
I did. This was not your typical first look. This was I can't find shit about this game, and you should not play it. And here's 20 minutes to tell you why. This was awful. Awful. So Tiny Mighty is a strategy RPG that takes no
Lots of
strategy whatsoever. It rips off every superhero you have ever seen and doesn't call them by their names. But the models are clearly Captain America and Sabretooth and...
To be fair, Sabretooth they actually do.
Yeah, he actually named them.
To be fair, they don't rip off every superhero, only Marvel.
Yeah, only Marvel. And the basic premise is you level up your superheroes and you can create new superheroes or unlock them, basically. And pick a certain team and level them up and their abilities up and even recruit superheroes from Jason's team to help go do PvE content and shit. It's awful.
I would never have a team.
It's awful. I didn't have to play it. And somebody said, why are you doing a first look for a mobile game? It's not a mobile game. It's a PC browser game. It's not even a Facebook game as far as that goes. It's not like, Farmville. You can only play it on your phone or on Facebook. No, it's go to their website, play now. Do it. It is awful. I didn't play it. The game played itself, and it's got one of those stamina systems where the stamina goes all the way down as you do things, and then you have to wait time for that to come back so you can keep playing, or of course you can pay to get that stamina up. But you're literally paying to watch the game play itself more. So I don't understand why anybody would do it. You need to gem up all of your gear and things like this. Those are all in the cash shop. They're all cash items only. Only cash shop items, ranging anywhere from 10 cents to a couple of bucks per item. So it's literally nickel and diming you to death. To death. And there are people running around with like all these high level and all this gear, and I'm like, oh my god, are you kidding me?
And I showed you a bit from their forums. Some guy, in the help forum, like I put in $2,000 for this, and something was wrong with my transaction. I'm like, why would you ever? What are you doing?
Ugh. And the localization. Oh my god. It's literally like they just took it, threw it in Google Translate, and pasted whatever it spit out.
Hey, their localization was done with military precision.
Military precision. One of the characters literally tells you that they are a military expert. militory. Military expert. Another character tells you not to molest one of the female NPCs. Actually says don't molest her.
Good advice.
That's got to be like some word in another language that actually meant harass or hassle or annoy, and Google Translate said molest.
So there you go.
A 1, and that's just because you're able to log in. A 1. Avoid at all costs. Go check out the first look. Have some fun. Laugh at it, because that's what I do for the entire 20 minutes. Avoid it at all costs. 1. I wish it would join this next topic. Shutdowns, Jason. Your favorite games? They're shutting down.
Yeah, they're totally my favorites.
Arklord 2 and Echo of Souls. Echo of Soul, to be fair, is only having shutdowns in Korea and China. Arklord 2 is everywhere. What are your thoughts?
Nobody's going to miss Archlord. From what I keep reading in the comments, everybody loved Archlord 1, didn't like Archlord 2, so...
Which is par for the course. That game just received a major update like 3 weeks ago, though.
Yeah, I know. Well, they hit us up all the time. We talk about people sending us press releases. We got a lot from them. But,
yeah, all the time.
Should have invested less in PR and more in the game, I guess. I don't know.
Echo of Soul's kind of surprising to me. I get the whole Korean shutdown. That was basically a publisher, developer, kind of, the publisher didn't want to do it anymore. They want to go into mobile gaming. So the Korea shutdown I get for Echo of Soul. The Chinese server shutdown is a bit more complicated. The game hasn't been updated there since July. And the publisher is on record saying that it doesn't create a good customer experience, and so they don't want to do it they don't want to publish it anymore. Now, what's that mean in the West? Well, when they announced the Korea shutdowns, Area Games said it means nothing in the West. It's totally independent. And then when they announced the Chinese shutdown, Area Games really didn't jump on it right away, but they did post something last night which we updated our article to reflect that, saying this also doesn't impact the West. We understand how you might be nervous. It's shutting down everywhere else, but it's still in the West, it's still in Japan, it's still in Thailand. And the developer has assured us that they are going to continue to develop content for. It was really weird. Did you read it? It was really bizarre wording. It was like the developer Niveus assures us that they are working on content for the game. It's like, wait a minute. Wait, don't you guys know whether or not they are? I mean, you have to just take their assurance that they are. And they totally attribute the Chinese shutdown to, Area Games attributes it to the game just being overrun by bots, and so players left, which is in stark contrast to what the publisher in China is saying, where the game itself doesn't create a positive experience for players.
It doesn't create a positive experience because of all the bots.
Yeah, and again, the two could overlap there a little bit, but this has got to be bad news for Echo of Soul fans in the West, right? I mean, they're saying nothing's happening, but it's got to be bad news.
I mean, it doesn't have to be. The thing is, whatever they say is irrelevant. I mean, a game could be shutting down tomorrow. They could be like cleaning out the entire office, firing everybody, and shutting down tomorrow. And they would still say, everything's fine, we're coming along just fine, development is going just fine. Please keep sending money. I mean, so, I don't know. I'm going to look at actions rather than words in the case of this. And
it makes you nervous.
Yeah.
It makes you nervous. Last up, before we get to the weekly bombs, Jason, this one's all on you, brother. What's going on with Runescape and Darkscape, and what the hell is all of this stuff? I thought Runescape was, Runescape, and now they have a new game, but it's not a new game, and I know we don't have a lot about this. What's going on?
Well, Darkscape is apparently it's a separate server of Runescape with its own rules, basically, and it plays. By the looks of it, from what I see, it plays kind of like a usually a basic PvP, hardcore ganking, sandbox survival economy kind of game. A lot of open world combat. They talk about having economic systems where, stuff is worth different worth different amounts in different cities. Each city having its own economy. So if you got something, you want to bring it to somewhere where it's worth more, you can go ahead and try to get there. But someone could get you, and they could kill you and take your stuff. So it's really an interesting kind of a direction for them to take for such an old game, to kind of give an updated, modern, hardcore. I don't know if it's kind of both modern and old school in some ways.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's really interesting. And I actually have some interview questions out to them through email that I sent just yesterday morning. So hopefully they get that. Maybe they might be in by the time this goes live, or at least by the end of the week, I would think.
Well, very cool. Check it out over on mmobomb.com with all the other great articles there. I think it's kind of a neat idea. I mean, it's an older game. We'll have to see how it plays out. But let's go over to the weekly bombs. Go ahead, Mr. Winter.
All right, I'm going to give a dub bomb to Armored Warfare. Last week they had a couple of videos with their lead developer talking about various community questions and so on. And one of the questions they had was, how do you handle toxic players? And the lead developer guy, responded in terms of how the dev team responded. Literally, how do you handle toxic players? And he said, usual, okay, we have to have a thick skin as developers. We understand these guys make good suggestions a lot of time, et cetera, et cetera. But I think what the question asker was really wanting to know was, how are you going to handle people who are jerks to other people, which, of course, is a problem in every PvP game out there, every team-based PvP especially. So I actually went and asked. I wrote back. I said, hey, could you answer it in that light? And I got a response. And here is the response. Maintaining a positive environment in-game is one of our top priorities when we consider the user experience for Armored Warfare. As such, we're going to have a number of systems in place to help address and prevent toxicity. Armored Warfare will have an in-game report feature allowing players to immediately report bad behavior to our customer support team. In addition, players have the option of muting either or both global and team chat. Toxic behavior is something that the gaming industry as a whole has been addressing more effectively lately, and we plan to continue to explore new and innovative options to improve players' experiences and prevent or punish inappropriate behavior. So admittedly kind of a boilerplate response, but at least nice to show that they are responsive, they're aware of this sort of thing, and are going to make some adjustments to try and deal with that sort of thing.
Oh, interesting. At least they clarified.
Yeah.
Because the first video we were like, wait, he didn't answer that at all.
he used the worst word too, passion. They're passionate.
Right. I'm going to give an A-bomb, so I'll go with the negative side of things. I'm going to give an A-bomb to Tryon World's glyph authentication issues that caused ArcAge's latest patch to have to be rolled back. which at least now they can do, so I guess that's a good thing. It's just when it rains, it pours, right? I mean, it's just...
Have we ever had a bomb for Arcade?
Right. From the viewers, Penn Lion checking in from Lancaster, PA, not far from my homestead here.
That's not Budapest.
Still
Romania,
playing
sorry.
Aura Kingdom, a beautiful, full-featured, casual-friendly MMORPG. While the game is largely soloable, including most of the dungeons, the in-game party finder means I can usually group up whenever I want. For magicman, there's a daily login bonus, and this would be a great game to play with the kids. For Mr. Winter, the game offers a ton of storage. The game has had 10 content patches since launch, including 6 new maps and dozens of new dungeons. Biggest problem right now is lag issues. If you like costumes, you can get several costumes from early quests, some from in-game vendors, and several in the auction house for only a few gold. Awesome. Glad you're enjoying Aura Kingdom.
Yeah, I actually Area Games flew me out there to look at the game, about 2 years ago, and then I actually tried it out. I went back in with my girlfriend for a little while, like sometime late last year, and yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. It's not, my total cup of tea, gonna be everything I play forever, and even the parts where I was like, oh, really, that's what you do? It was for a good laugh. So, it's kind of entertaining. I can still grant you that. All right, this next one comes from ASD. Really inventive name. They're just, plopping fingers on the home row. Anyway, this person says 30.5 thousand level to join invasions and dozens and millions in guild currency to unlock it. Die, Skyforge, die.
Yeah, the feedback, I mean, they've had their world first kills, too, on both the European side and the North American side, but the feedback there is, yeah, it's not as all-player friendly as they kind of led people to believe it would be. Defac Jenkins says, Dub-Bomb, related to your discussion, my favorite free-to-play is definitely Smite. Its cash shop doesn't offer anything you need more than you want, and even the cash shop currency is given twice a week through daily gifts, and every once in a while they hold an event to just give a bleep load of gems to everyone who plays.
That's what he wrote there, too. It's not magicman isn't censoring that.
Yeah, I'm not censoring it. Plus, high-res really make you feel like the players are important to them. And last but not least, they make the greatest puns of all. And I know I'm a week late, but shout out from Israel. Not only Romanians watch the show. I love your show. Keep up the good work. Shout out to Israel and all of our friends there. Woot.
All right, this comes from Bizad BZ. Says, I got a dub on for Heroes and Generals for stopping the game from being paid to win by making free players be able to buy tanks with silver and not gold only. Now, I agree with you on that. I've bought tanks in Heroes and Generals with my silver, so excellent.
Nice.
So you get to pronounce this next one. I'm guessing he's not from Pennsylvania.
Mahegis Mentink. Hey, Jason and Mike, just wanted to respond to the way you guys talk about Skyforge. The way Skyforge is played, or at least how I play it, is not an ongoing chase for prestige or power. It is a race for mastering your classes and builds. The higher prestige means more possibility, but not necessarily better. I think they want to take away the feeling of having to work for something and more having fun the whole time while playing the game. How silly is the idea that someone should have a reason to be mad at another because he took a shortcut? I mean, you're playing a game, not working your way up some corporate ladder. You're playing to have fun. I think that if there's any aspect to having to do this or that, a game stops being a game. I think the devs are trying to make this game more a game and less a job. Sorry for being a bit vague. I don't think that was vague at all.
No, and that's how I play. I'm not an end game focused guy. I enjoy doing the stuff to get there. Unless that stuff is just the same stuff over and over and over, which Skyforge kind of is. So that's the part that bothers me. I'm not the guy. I don't have to be the 6 times a week raider to get there within a week or whatever. That's more Zach. So.
And now we get to the question of the week, which had some amazing responses.
And I have not read these beforehand, as you.
Last show we said, are you buying a Blade and Soul Founders Pack now that the beta date has actually been announced? Why or why not?
All right, I will start.
Go for it.
With Dedenstein, no Blade and Soul Founders Pack for me. Founders Pack as a concept just sound too much like a scam to me. They are the pre-order bonus of the free-to-play world, and actually non-free-to-play, I'll point out, but sure. Only twice as sketchy because they are asking us to prepay for a game we don't actually have to pay for. Well, that's that part. And on top of that, the different tiers just compound the stupid. Compound the stupid. Just imagine.
I hate when people compound the stupid. Just keep stacking up the stupid.
Oh God, yeah, this is great what he brings up next.
Yep.
Just imagine the recent Deus Ex pre-order debacle if you had to pay more for each tier that gets unlocked.
Ugh.
If you're not aware, what happened is that they had kind of like a crowdfunding unlocking tiers. If enough people bought the pre-order, it would unlock more stuff in the pre-order.
Yep.
It was like, oh my God. And they didn't sign. It's just, oh, and all us hosers up here in Canada love the show too, you know. Romanids ain't the only ones, eh?
Hey, Canada! Canada checking in.
You guys just said Canada. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I did that wrong. Canada.
Thank you, Canada, checking in. Azra says, first off, great show. This is actually the first time I've listened in. I decided to check out the site after seeing you over on Massively Opinionated. I figured I had to show a little support after that SWOTOR travesty.
Which one of us is he talking about that he saw on Massively Opinionated?
That's going to be me in the SWOTOR travesty.
Oh, okay, all right. I had a new episode went up today, by the way.
SWOTOR, god damn it. Well, Azris, thank you for stopping by. Much appreciated. Azris goes on to say, anyway, just wanted to drop a quick couple of comments. Guild Wars 2 already has a rocket launcher, when we were talking about Guild Wars 2 and the Secret World last show. The Charzuka, though I will admit I was disappointed to find it did not, in fact, launch an angry char at my opponents. I bought the $125 Blade and Soul Founder Pack. It wasn't an easy decision, but I decided to pick it up for a couple of reasons. I've had a great time with some of the other action MMOs on the market, especially Vindictus and Terra. I've been playing MMOs since AC launched, Asheron's Call, is what I assume he's talking about, or she talking about. So the action MMO style strikes me as a fun twist on my favorite genre of games. I'd been interested in Blade and Soul largely due to the art for a long time, but watching some recent gameplay footage really sold me on the game, so I was sure I was going to play it, and I was fairly sure I was going to enjoy it. The final nail in the coffin was that I know my purchasing habits. I tend to spend money in the cash up of games that I enjoy, and it usually ends up around the $100 mark when I'm done. So I figured I'd just do my buying a little early on and enjoy the extra goodies that come with it. Besides, I like that they give you the NC coin to tinker with during the betas, but then refund it for launch so that I have a chance to experiment with cash up items. Next point, I think the comparisons of Blade and Soul to Ion and Arcage are completely valid. However, I think that a comparison to Terra is also valid. Terra launched under very similar conditions as either of those games and is doing great. So, while Blade and Soul could end up like Arcage, I hope it ends up like Terra. Anyway, thanks for a great show. I'll be sure to swing by again in the future. Excellent breakdown. I mean, I can't fault you for buying it. It sounds like you at least put the thought into it on should I buy this? Yeah. So,
you know, I don't do pre-orders, but something I will, and something that's almost as bad as just like buying a AAA game, just right when it comes out, because those can be, like we talked about.
Pretty much a gamble these days too.
Yeah, and my thought on that again is I'll do it if I just know that I'm going to love it, no matter, even if it's, I accept that it could be buggy as hell. Like that's how it was with Skyrim when I first got that. I was like, I'm going to get that day one because I love Skyrim. I'm going to want to play it. So yeah, if you have a case like that, then yeah, go ahead and buy it. So,
and it was buggy as hell.
Just be okay with it as long as you're going to be disappointed if it's not perfect. Neo Bari says, I likely get the lowest level of Blade and Soul pack for the beta weekend access. Sucker to try some Wuxia action combat in my MMORPG. But those other Founders packs, way too pricey, no thanks. And checking in from somewhere in the Midwest, USA.
Hey, USA checking
USA.
Well, Lancaster, PA checked in too, so technically I guess that's USA.
But Midwest is better.
All right. Victor Alkaiser says, I'm still very excited for Blade and Soul. It kind of bums me out a little that everyone seems to be bashing it so much just because it took a while to come out. I don't think a while is the right word. While I do agree NCSoft dropped the ball heavily by delaying Blade and Soul so damn much, I'm basing my judgment on the game itself, and the game looks really, really fun. I love the Eastern art style and philosophy. I'm a huge sucker for good action-based combat. Now, everybody keeps talking about the action combat here, and who was it? Steparo, I think, did a video recently that is worth checking out. I haven't watched the whole thing, so I'm not going to speak to it because I don't know enough about it yet, but the premise of the video, I think, had to do with maybe action combat wasn't the original intent for Blade and Soul, and so maybe it's not as action-y as you think. I think that was the intent of the video, and I'm pretty sure it was Steparo. That's off the top of my head, so I'll bring an update to next week's show.
Okay. TLC Bonaparte says, MMO cast to Blade and Soul, you are late. Blade and Soul, boobs are never late, nor are they early. They arrive precisely when they mean to. Because let's be honest, it's never too late for boobs.
It's hard to disagree. Kinetic Fetus, representing for the American Bombers, checking in from Georgia. What's up, Georgia? Will I buy a Founders Pack for Blade and Soul? Nope. Lost my ticket for the hype train a long, long time ago.
Oh, womp, womp, womp.
Last one.
Johnny Jab says, no, I won't buy a Founders Pack. I'm from Romania. Not that those are related, like, Romanians can't buy them, but, I think he's just...
Romania still well out in the lead, but the United States putting a respectable effort together this week.
And there's that one guy from Canada.
Canada. Question of the week this week, gang, is let's get some venom out here. It's bad to keep it all in. It really is. It's really bad to keep it all in. What free-to-play game would you shut down right now if you could, and why? Mine would be Tiny Mighty, hands down. I'd shut it down. I'd get rid of it. I'd kill it with fire. We'll get Jason's answer next week, and we'll get your answers next week. Tell us what free-to-play game would you like to just shut down, and why? Right now. Make sure you leave your weekly Da-Bomb and A-Bombs, your weekly bombs, in the comments below so we can read them on next week's show. Or if you have questions for Jason, myself, Zach should be with us next week going through a little bit of a thing. Zach, our thoughts are with you, my friend. Until next week, Jason, where can everybody find you, sir?
I would totally shut down Guild Wars 2. That game sucks.
Yeah, right.
Find me on the Twitter at WinterInformal and watch me stream occasionally at twitch.tv/JasonWinter.
I'm Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magicman. You can follow me on Twitter at MagicMan1. That's MAGICKMANN1. You can come over to MMOBomb.com, check out all the great videos and content we got going on there, and check us out on twitch.tv/MMOBomb. Until next week, stay safe, and we'll see you out on the servers.